being the leader.
Cyclone Yaas, cyclonic storm Yaas over east central Bay of Bengal intensifies into severe cyclonic storm likely to make landfall tomorrow between Paradeep and Sagar Island. Rainfall lashes parts of Odisha and West Bengal. NDRF teams here lifted from different locations and deployed for rescue and relief operations. People being evacuated to cyclone shelters. India reports less than 2 lakh new cases for first time in about 40 days. Recovery rate rises further to 89.26%. More than 12 lakh vaccine doses administered for 18 to 44 age group in the last 24 hours. Additional 19,420 vials of antifungal drug allocated to states and union territories for the management of mucormycosis. Global investors repose confidence in the strength of Indian economy despite COVID. Record FDI of $81 billion in financial year 2021. External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar begins his visit to the US. Will hold discussions with his US counterpart Antony Blinken. Likely to meet UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres. Jaishankar will have interactions with business forums on economic and COVID-related cooperation between India and US. And in sports, India's Shiv Thapa and Mohammad Hasamuddin off to a flying start at the Asian Boxing Championships. One step away from a medal, 5 boxers in fray in action on day 2. Namaskar and welcome to DD News in DD India. I'm Sakal Bhatt and the top story we are tracking for you at this hour. The severe cyclonic storm Yaas over west central and adjoining east central and north Bay of Bengal has moved north-northwestwards with a speed of about 16 kilometers per hour during the past 6 hours. It is very likely to move north-northwestwards, intensifying further into a very severe cyclonic storm during the next 12 hours. It would then continue to move north-northwestwards, intensify further and reach northwest Bay of Bengal near North Odisha coast, very close to Dhamra port in the early morning of 26th of May. It is very likely to also cross North Odisha, West Bengal coast between Paradeep and Sagar Island, close to north of Dhamra and south of Balasore during the noon of 26th of May as a very severe cyclonic storm.
जो स्टेटस जो है सीवियर साइक्लोनिक स्टॉर्म ये ओवर ईस्ट सेंट्रल बे में है पोजीशन 18.7 डिग्री नॉर्थ एंड 88 डिग्री ईस्ट जो फोरकास्ट हम लोग दिए हैं जो ये उत्तर उत्तर पश्चिम दिशा में अग्रसर होगा और अगला 12 घंटा में इंटेंसिफाई होकर वेरी सीवियर साइक्लोनिक स्टॉर्म बनेगा। वेरी सीवियर साइक्लोनिक स्टॉर्म बनने का बाद भी ये उत्तर उत्तर पश्चिम दिशा में अग्रसर होगा और 26 अर्ली मॉर्निंग तक बंगाल और उड़ीसा का जो कोस्ट है इस कोस्ट के नज़दीक पहुंच जाएगा।
The regional Met Centre of Kolkata has also said that Purba Midnapur in West Bengal will be most affected and the wind speed will be 90 to 120 kilometers in early hours on 26th of May in Purba Midnapur.
अभी विंड वार्निंग जो गेल विंड होगा क्योंकि सिस्टम क्रॉस कर रहा है साउथ ऑफ बालासोर सबसे ज़्यादा अफेक्टेड होने की डिस्ट्रिक्ट है हमारा पूर्व मेदिनीपुर इसलिए पूर्व मेदिनीपुर पे 26 अर्ली आवर्स में जो विंड रहेगा वो 90 टू 120 किलोमीटर गस्टिंग 145 किलोमीटर पर आवर। बाकी जो जिला है झारग्राम एंड पश्चिम मेदिनीपुर इसमें 80 टू 90 गस्टिंग 110, साउथ 24 परगना में 80 टू 90 गस्टिंग 100, नॉर्थ 24 परगना 70 टू 80 गस्टिंग 90, कोलकाता 65 टू 75 गस्टिंग 85, हुगली हावड़ा नदिया ईस्ट वेस्ट बर्धमान बांकुड़ा एंड पुरुलिया 60 टू 80 गस्टिंग 90, बीरभूम एंड मुर्शिदाबाद 50 to 60 gusting 70.
In West Bengal, people living in low-lying and vulnerable areas have started moving to the multi-purpose cyclone shelter at Digha in East Midnapur in view of Cyclone Yaas. Assistant Commandant of 2nd Battalion of NDRF at Digha, Shashidev Singh, has said that NDRF teams are continuously engaged in the evacuation of people from these vulnerable areas, adding that medical teams will also be visiting the cyclone shelters.
इवैक्यूएशन के लिए जहाँ तक बात है तो हमने अपनी दोनों टीमों को 6 टीमों में 6 सब टीम में बांट दिया है और जहाँ भी ज़रूरत पड़ रही है सिविलाइजेशन को हर जगह हम अपनी 6 टीमों को भेज रहे हैं ताकि वो उनको असिस्ट कर सकें और जो भी नियर बाई साइक्लोन शेल्टर्स हैं वहाँ पहुँचा रहे हैं उनको। कंटिन्यू जारी है। कल हमारी एक टीम ने रात को 1 बजे तक काम किया है। यहाँ पे जितने लोगों को इवैक्यूएट करके रखा गया है उनके लिए 3 टाइम का सुबह नाश्ता, दोपहर का खाना और रात के डिनर की पूरी व्यवस्था की गई है। उसके अलावा मेडिकल टीम्स भी इनकी आती हैं विजिट करने के लिए। अगर कोई बीमार है, किसी को कोई प्रॉब्लम होती है तो उनकी भी केयर कर रहे हैं ये लोग।
Orissa, Andhra Pradesh, West Bengal, Tamil Nadu and Andaman and Nicobar Islands are expected to be affected by the cyclone Yaas. Government has in fact been advising these states and union territories to make adequate arrangements as public health challenge posed by the COVID-19 pandemic is likely to be compounded due to the direct impact of the lethal virus and also public health risks posed by water, vector and airborne diseases that may arise in the community or in displaced population living in camps or temporary shelters. In fact, my department has issued red alert for 4 districts of Odisha. It issued extremely heavy rainfall warning for Kendrapara and Bhadrak and Jagat Singhpur and Balasore for today and tomorrow. Further, orange alert has been sounded, which means heavy to very heavy rainfall being issued for 5 other districts, including Mayurbhanj, Jaipur, Cuttack, Khordha and Puri for today.
Tomorrow we are expecting most of the north coastal parts and particularly Bhadrak, Baleswar, Kendrapada, Jagatsinghpur, Cuttack. These are the districts. Apart from that, Mayurbhanj, Keundhar, Dhenkanal. These districts also they are going to get heavy to very heavy rainfall. Apart from that, at a few places there also we are expecting extremely heavy rainfall about these districts.
Odisha government has rushed a large contingent of rescue and relief teams to Balasore district bordering West Bengal, where the very severe cyclonic storm Yaas is likely to make a landfall. With an aim to tackle the cyclone amid the ongoing coronavirus pandemic, Pradeep Kumar Jaina, Special Relief Commissioner of Odisha, has stated that arrangements have been made for smooth evacuation following COVID norms. More than 800 Odisha Disaster Rapid Action Force personnel are in a high state of readiness for the cyclone Yaas. Balasore Collector K. Sudarshan Chakrabarti has also said that the focus is on the evacuation of people from low-lying areas, adding that 1,200 centres to be used as shelters have been sanitized due to COVID-19, along with deploying health teams there. Collector also said that power restoration and road clearance teams have also been deployed. Significantly, Odisha Police has started emergency response support system with a single emergency 112, single emergency number 112 for the state. It was launched by Chief Minister Naveen Patnaik today. Service include police, fire, ambulance, etc.
Initially, now we are just focusing on the evacuation of the people from the low-lying areas. For the evacuation purpose, we have identified about 1,200 shelters which will be used as evacuation centers. All these evacuation centers have been properly sanitized because of the prevailing COVID situation, and in all the evacuation centers we have nodal officer and health team deployed. Then we have NDRF, about 9 teams have already been deployed. Then Odisha Fire Services team, about 28 teams have been deployed. ODRAF team and Forest Department teams have been already deployed at all strategic.
In view of the cyclonic storm Yaas, total of 109 self-contained teams of National Disaster Response Force have been committed for the coastal districts of West Bengal, Odisha, Andhra Pradesh, Tamil Nadu, Jharkhand and Andaman and Nicobar Islands after consultation with the respective state authorities. Among the total 109 teams, 32 teams have been deployed at the coastal districts of West Bengal. 10 more teams are being airlifted in the addition to the 3 teams kept on alert in the state. And for an effective response, 44 teams have been placed at coastal districts of Odisha, whereas 8 teams are kept as immediate reserve at Mundali, Cuttack, NDRF base, which may be used as the situation demands. 2 teams are deployed in Tamil Nadu and 1 team is on alert at Arakonam. NDRF Battalion 3 teams are deployed in Jharkhand. 2 are on standby mode in the state. Besides, 3 teams are deployed in Andhra Pradesh. 1 team is deployed at Andaman and Nicobar Islands. NDRF teams are constantly 24/7 bases engaged with the state and district administration in terms of evacuating people to safer places or cyclone shelters and sanitizing localities about the preventive measures. Headquarters of the NDRF is closely monitoring developments and all efforts are being made to ensure that there is zero casualty and minimum damage to life and property. In fact, ahead of the landfall of Cyclone Yaas on the eastern coastal region of the country, Indian Coast Guard IG K.R. Suresh has said that the Coast Guard is ready to deal with the cyclone, adding that communication is being established with other nations and the sea conditions are being monitored.
26 के बाद जब इसका लैंडफॉल हो जाएगा हम जोर शोर से रेस्क्यू ऑपरेशन में लग जाएंगे अगर कुछ मिले समुद्र में उसके लिए। तो ये जो स्टेप्स हम अडॉप्ट करते हैं और इसके चलते चलते हमारे जो रेस्क्यू कोऑर्डिनेशन सेंटर्स, मैरिटाइम रेस्क्यू कोऑर्डिनेशन सेंटर्स हैं, वो भी अलर्ट रहते हैं और हमारे जो नेबरिंग कंट्रीज हैं उनके साथ भी हमारे बहुत अच्छे ताल्लुकात रहते हैं कि साइक्लोन के समय में किसी का भी कुछ भी हो तो हमारा आदान प्रदान शब्दों का, हमारे बातों का, कम्युनिकेशंस का जारी रहता है। नेक्स्ट, ऑल अलोंग द कोस्टलाइन हमारे जो रडार यूनिट्स जो हैं वो सब अलर्ट रहते हैं कि 20-25 माइल के अंदर any challenges which arise because of safety security reasons we are monitoring.
He further added that there are almost no boats or merchant ships in the path of the cyclone and warning has been issued to all those concerned.
जो बोट्स बाहर थे वो सब अभी हार्बर के अंदर पहुंच चुके हैं एंड उसमें से 55 के करीब हमने शेपर्ड भी किया था और 265 ऐसे बोट्स थे जो अंदर आ चुके हैं। इफ यू टेक मर्चेंट वेसल्स, 70 के करीब मर्चेंट वेसल बाहर थे। आज के दिन वेस्ट बंगाल, उड़ीसा या नीचे तक कोई मर्चेंट वेसल बाहर नहीं हुआ एंड सब लोग नीचे वैशाख तमिलनाडु की तरफ निकल चुके हैं क्योंकि ये साइक्लोन के पाथ बोलते हैं ना, पाथ से वो लोग भी बाहर हैं। जो एसपीएम सिंगल पॉइंट मूविंग में जो ऑपरेशन चलता है विशाखापट्टनम, काकीनाडा और बाकी पारादीप जैसी जगह पे, उसमें भी जो 7 एसपीएम्स चालू हैं वो सब अभी बंद हो गए हैं और ऑयल रिग्स सबके वार्निंग्स जा चुका है और कोऑर्डिनेशन मैट्रिक्स बहुत अच्छा हो गया है।
INS Netaji Subhash is spearheading the Indian Naval's relief effort at West Bengal in close coordination with the state government of West Bengal for the preparations ahead of Cyclone Yaas. As part of the preparations, 2 Navy diving teams and 5 flood relief teams comprising specialized Navy personnel with associated equipment and inflatable boats have been deployed to the state. 1 flood relief team has been kept on standby at Diamond Harbour for redeployment as necessary at short notice. These teams are equipped to undertake casualty evacuation of stranded marooned personnel, road clearing, tree cutting operations and distribution of relief material. In addition, the Indian Navy is also positioning humanitarian assistance and disaster relief material for about 500 people at the depot center at Kolkata. 4 Indian naval ships loaded with HADR material, medical teams, additional diving teams would also closely follow the cyclone and will be available for rendering further assistance. Naval helicopters are also on standby mode for the deployment at the short notice in the aftermath of cyclone for casualty evacuation, aerial survey and airdrop of the relief material based on requests from the state governments as required. In other news, in encouraging signs to India's fight against COVID-19 pandemic, the daily new cases have fallen below 2 lakh to a level seen 40 days before. 1,97,427 daily new cases were registered in the last 24 hours. Cumulatively, the active caseload has now reduced to 25,86,782. Active cases have decreased since last peak on 10th of May 2021, which means a net decline of 1,33,934 being witnessed in the last 24 hours. It now comprises 9.60% of the country's total positive cases, which means that India's daily recoveries continue to outnumber the daily new cases, and this is the trend continuing for the 12th consecutive day. It also means that 3,26,850 recoveries have been registered in the last 24 hours. So the number of recoveries going up. India's cumulative recoveries have now with that reached to 2,40,54,861 mark today. The national recovery rate has grown further to touch 89.26%. That's your national recovery rate. And as part of the nationwide vaccination drive, the government has been supporting the states and union territories by providing them COVID vaccines free of cost. Government of India has so far provided both through the free of cost category and through direct state category procurement more than 21.89 crore vaccine doses to states and union territories. Of this, the total consumption including wastage is 19 crore 93 lakh 39,750 doses. More than 1.77 crore COVID vaccine doses are still available with the states and union territories to be administered. Furthermore, 7 lakh vaccine doses are in the pipeline and will be received by the states and union territories within the next 3 days. A total of 19 crore 85 lakh 38,999 vaccine doses have been administered through 28 lakh 41,151 sessions. 12.82 lakh vaccination doses were administered for 18 to 44 age group in the last 24 hours, and this is the highest since 1st of May 2021. That was when the liberalized pricing and accelerated national COVID-19 vaccination strategy was implemented. Delhi police meanwhile has urged people to follow COVID appropriate behavior and not to demonstrate any kind of gathering. Delhi police PRO said that any kind of illegal activity or entry will not be permitted at the borders. Action will be taken against those breaking laws.
पुलिस की व्यवस्था तमाम बॉर्डर्स पर पहले से ही लगी हुई है। किसी भी प्रकार का इलीगल एक्टिविटी या अवैध प्रवेश इत्यादि को दिल्ली में ये घटित होने नहीं दिया जाएगा और ये जो भी इस प्रकार का प्रदर्शन या इस प्रकार का जो कॉल होता है उसके आड़ में किसी प्रकार का लॉ एंड ऑर्डर या लॉकडाउन का वायोलेशन या कानून का तोड़ना, इस प्रकार का जो भी घटना घटेगी या घटने की कोई भी मंशा रखते हो, उसको निपटने के लिए दिल्ली पुलिस पूरी तरह से तैयार है और कानून तोड़ने वालों के ऊपर सख्त से सख्त कार्रवाई की जाएगी।
Madhya Pradesh Chief Minister Shivraj Singh Chauhan has said that cases in the states are on decline. However, people should follow COVID appropriate behavior.
कल 2400 केस आए कोरोना के नए, केवल 2400 रोज घटते जा रहे हैं और कई जिले तो ऐसे हैं कि जहां 10 से भी कम केस अब आए हैं। कुछ में ज्यादा है, वहां चिंता करने की जरूरत है, लेकिन अब धीरे धीरे कोरोना कंट्रोल हो रहा है।
Union Minister for Health and Family Welfare, Dr. Harshvardhan, today has addressed call for action session on ensuring continuity of health services or to non-communicable diseases patients during COVID-19 crisis, organized by Defeat NCD partnership at UN Institute for Training and Research. Harshvardhan said that the COVID-19 pandemic has had a major impact on the capacity of global health systems to continue the uninterrupted delivery of essential health services, saying that world is now facing an existential crisis.
The world is now facing an existential crisis. The global threat of COVID-19 pandemic, which has led to over 3.46 million deaths across the world. And friends, my country in India too is facing the brunt of the second wave of the pandemic. The COVID-19 pandemic has had a major impact on the capacity of global health systems to continue the uninterrupted delivery of essential health services. While health systems around the world are being challenged by increasing demand for care of COVID-19 patients, the COVID-19 outbreak has placed unprecedented demands on our health system.
Delhi International Airport Limited today handled the 100th COVID-19 relief flight, which brought about 10 metric tons of medical aid from Russia. Now, during the second wave of the COVID-19 pandemic this year, Delhi Airport so far has successfully handled 100 COVID-19 relief flights, which brought in aid from over 36 countries. Between April 27th and May 25th, Delhi Airport has handled 1,750 metric tons of relief material. During this period, Delhi Airport successfully has handled some of the largest military and commercial aircrafts, which include Antonov 124, C-130 Globemasters, C-5, C-17 and IL-76, among other freighters. These planes brought in consignments of various relief materials such as oxygen generating plants, oxygen generators, oxygen concentrators, oxygen cylinders, oxygen therapy, masks, ventilators, remdesivir injection, patient beds and medicines like Veklury, Tocilizumab, etc. Delhi Airport has remained in the forefront, proactively working with the government and other stakeholders in fight against COVID-19 pandemic. Also, by setting up dedicated logistic facility called Jeevodaya warehouse for interim storage and distribution of COVID-19 relief material. In fact, last year during the 2-month-long lockdown, when airport was closed for commercial operations, Delhi Airport's cargo facility was operational, successfully handling distribution of relief materials by participating in government's initiatives of Lifeline Udan and Krishi Udan. Air evacuation of COVID-19 patients poses a risk to the entire crew due to the spread of infection. So, air evacuation pods used to ensure safety were costing $5 million when the pandemic struck. Southern Naval Command responded to this challenge and made them at a cost of just 1% of the price. Here's a report on the innovative endeavor of Southern Naval Command, which found demand from abroad as well.
Last year, when the COVID pandemic struck, Indian Navy faced a unique challenge of air evacuating critically ill patients at remote locations like far-off islands or ship at sea or from a remote area where good medical facilities did not exist. The risk of spread of infection to the air crew was significantly high, which demanded the use of air evacuation pods. But such pods were priced exorbitantly high in the market at 50 lakh rupees.
When we went into the market to find out the cost of these pods, we found it to be very expensive. And then it's then that the Southern Naval Command tasked our naval aircraft yard to try and design and fabricate a air evacuation pod. And our officers and sailors and civilians who work in the naval aircraft yard Cochin, they have produced this air evacuation pod. The cost of this pod, which has been indigenously made, is about 50,000 rupees, which is very cheap when we compare it to the actual cost, which I believe it is around 50 lakh rupees.
The challenge was accepted by Naval Aircraft Yard Cochin, whose officers, sailors and staff swung into action to design and fabricate the pods which met all demands of safe evacuation.
The pod has been designed in such a fashion that the patient is kept in a fully sealed capsule so as to avoid any risk of infection to pilots and the rescue team. The pod has been provided with forced ventilation system utilizing a small blower and N95 filters to keep the patient comfortable. The pod has a provision for supplying oxygen to the patient if required and also has access ports for medication requirements.
The results were marvelous. They could design a pod which costs only 50,000 rupees, which is just 1% of the cost estimate of such pods in the open market. These pods were used for the evacuation purposes from then on by the Southern Naval Command. Soon it caught the attention of all armed forces and other organizations. Demands started pouring in from government and non-government organizations.
We supplied these pods to all the Army and the Air Force commands, the Coast Guard also, and some of our friendly foreign countries like Mauritius, Seychelles, Maldives, and even the government of Nagaland and ONGC asked us for these pods, and we have supplied these pods to them. And even now when I speak to you, we are sending these pods, 2 of them to the Eastern Naval Command and 2 of them to the Andaman and Nicobar Command and 1 more to Maldives.
32 such air evacuation pods have been fabricated and supplied by the aircraft yard of Southern Naval Command. This innovative solution has vastly increased the Indian Navy's abilities in its relentless efforts towards aiding COVID prevention across the nation. Bureau Report, DD India.
Moving on, the Union Cabinet chaired by Prime Minister Narendra Modi has approved creation of 1 post of Director in Senior Administrative Grade at National Disaster Response Force Academy in Nagpur. And with the creation of this post of director in DRF Academy, the command and the control of the organization will be entrusted to a senior and experienced officer who can actually steer the institution as per the objectives intended. The academy will impart skill-based practical training to over 5,000 personnel annually from NDRF, SDRF and CD volunteers, other stakeholders in disaster response agencies of SAARC and other countries. It will also cater to analyzing and improving the training programs as per changing needs and requirements of the stakeholders. In other news, External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar is on a 5-day visit to the United States to strengthen COVID-related cooperation between India and US. It is his first visit to New York after India entered the UNSC on January 1st, 2021. In fact, he yesterday had a productive strategy session with Indian Ambassador to UN T.S. Tirumurti and India's UN team in New York. After the meeting, EAM expressed confidence that India will continue to shape the big debates of our times. During the course of his visit, 2 interactions are scheduled between the Indian delegation and Business Forum to discuss economic and COVID-related cooperation between the 2 countries. Besides this, EM will also meet UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres in New York. His schedule also includes a meeting and holding discussions with his counterpart, Secretary of State Antony Blinken in Washington, D.C., a meeting with cabinet members and senior officials of the administration dealing with the bilateral relationship is also on the list. The visit focuses on procurement of COVID-19 vaccines from American companies and explore possibility of joint production. India has managed to rake in the highest ever FDI during financial year 2020-21 at $81.72 billion, and this is 10% higher than what was received in the year before. Foreign direct equity investment inflows rose 19% over the previous fiscal to $59.64 billion. According to data released by the Department for Promotion of Industry and Internal Trade, Singapore remained the largest source of FDI for the 3rd consecutive year with a share of 29%. It was followed by the US with 23% share and Mauritius with 9%. Well, after yesterday's cracking start, Indian boxers will be pumping and will be looking forward to confirm their medals tonight in Dubai as the quarterfinals of the Asian Elite Boxing Championship 2021 sets in. Yesterday, Mohammad Hasamuddin began Indian campaign on a winning note, defeating Kazakhstan's Mahmoud Sabri Khan 5-0. Hasamuddin will be having a strong challenge in the last 8 match from the top seed and reigning world champion Miraziz Bek Mirza Halilov of Uzbekistan. And in 64 kg category, India's Shiva Thapa defeated Dmitry Puchin of Kazakhstan 5-0 in the pre-quarter final bout of Asian Boxing Championship in Dubai. Shiva will face Oder Oda of Kuwait in the quarter-finals. And with that, it's time to wrap up this edition of Newscast on DD News and DD India. Meanwhile, updates continue on your national channel, Doordarshan. Stay with us. Namaskar.